Welcome to the Finding the Magic podcast, where books come alive. I'm Tricia Copeland, a fiction author and host of this show. If you love books, finding great reads, and hearing about the story behind the story directly from the authors, this is the place for you. Whether you like fantasy, science fiction, dystopian, or romance titles, I think you'll find something to love in my playlist. Listen in to discover something magical about a book or two today.
Welcome, P.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here today. We have upcoming young adult YA fantasy author P.S. Willis with us. And just super excited. I love the premise for your book, Crying Out for Magic. Just the title, like, emotionally grabs you in. Set us up for what this book is about.
Okay, so it's a reverse portal fantasy is one of the ways I like to describe it. We have a very sweet, optimistic, but very naive little mage who lives in this incredibly safe fantasy dimension where nothing bad ever happens. Everyone is kind. I was kind of playing with the idea of sort of utopias a little bit. But he discovers a portal through to our world where he meets this awkward fantasy nerd. So there's a very cute kind of arc of their relationship, but also Draven, who's the mage character, having to come to terms with and understand what our world is actually like.
Oh, so yeah, it sets up that whole, wow, there are people who do bad things and
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, it's interesting that you have that juxtaposition because I just finished a fairy series and my fairies live in Middle Earth, which is a different realm from the human realm, but it's very much contemporary. Like, they know about the humans, but they're not fairies that can't lie. They're not those sneaky fairies. So they can lie, but they don't usually lie, and they usually are very nice to each other and all these things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then there's this evil spirit who's haunting them, who starts like messing with the fairies and making things happen within their community that normally doesn't happen. So that's an interesting premise there.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, like, I really love the idea of, like, utopia and a perfect world. And, like, I think that was one of the kind of questions I was asking is, like, can a perfect world exist? What does a perfect world look like? And of course the answer is no. There's always something going on, something beneath the surface. If you kind of just write a perfect world, it gets very boring very fast. But yeah, trying to kind of create that and then seeing, well, where do the problems come from having that? Or what are the costs of creating that?
Right, because I would say we're all human, but they aren't human. But yeah, like, how does that look?
But one of their big costs is they're sort of very isolated and very insular because they're kind of trying to keep to themselves.
Yeah, and keep all the bad influences out so nobody is like influenced by the other people. Yeah, interesting. So, but there's a problem in the magic world, right? They're running out of magic. Is that why he reaches out initially, or he just happens upon this portal?
He is a bit of a restless spirit, so he's quite bored and dissatisfied with this world where everything's just kind of nice but not exciting. And the only problem left in the world is solving the magical crisis, but the way they're going about that just feels very boring to him. He wants to save the world, but everyone is kind of just shuffling along, being kind of okay with everything being okay, and that's not enough for him. So he's poking into places he shouldn't be poking into and trying to find there being more to life.
Right, yeah, than the just idyllic, I'm drinking tea every afternoon at 4:00.
Yeah. And therefore ends up massively biting off way more than he can chew.
Well, of course, you have to have that in a story, right?
Yep. especially a coming of age story. It's like, okay, make some mistakes, learn some harsh truths, and now you grow up.
And so what kind of point of view is this from? Do we get two first person point of
Yes.
views? Okay.
Split point of view. So we get some chapters from Draven's point of view in the magical world and some from Niall's in our world in specifically northeast England, because that's a part of the country that I spent time in. I went to university there. I lived there for a few years afterwards. So it's part of the world that's very important to me and very close to my heart. And it just felt like it really deserved a fantastical story set there.
Oh, neat. And is your major creative writing, and I saw you had a couple of short stories before this novel, right? Or how did you get into writing?
Yeah, no, so my undergraduate degree was language and literature, so kind of related. And then my master's degree is speech and language therapy, and that's my day job. But I got into writing. I'm one of those people who has just always written for fun, grew up writing fan fiction and doing text-based RPGs with my friends. So that was quite nice because it was writing with an immediate audience. And then when I started to kind of think, actually, I would like to try, turning this into something I could publish, turning this into, a full novel. I searched for to see if there were any NaNoWriMo meetups in the city where I was living, because it was back in the days where that was still a thing to be doing. And I didn't find one, but I did find a writing group, like a critique group workshop, and started going to that. And they were much more angled towards short stories. They'd take, you could submit novel extracts, but you don't know that the same people are going to come every week. And so I started writing short stories to participate in that workshop. And that is a fantastic community. It's been a fantastic resource. I've gone from being someone who submits terrible stories to someone who submitted pretty good stories, to becoming the person who runs the workshop, as people leave and it's like, you're still here and you're okay at this, would you like to do it? So
Voluntold.
It's now turned into the sort of population that comes has changed a bit, and there's a lot more of those people who are like, I don't know how to get started. So we do 50% submissions and critiquing and 50% generative workshops. So yeah, that's my writing community, and that's how I kind of got into writing more and knowing more. And then for sort of novel writing, I feel like I really connected with online communities back in the day when we had Twitter, and that was a nice thing, the writing community on there. So that's where I've found more kind of novel writing buddies and beta readers, and a cheerleading support community, wonderful little group of Twitter friends called Team Tea and Books. So
that's amazing. That's very cool. Yeah, because I kind of just did it on my own. So kudos to you for finding people.
That sounds hard.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. And well, but it's interesting that you said that about the RPG, because like you have an immediate like feedback of, I really like these characters. And that's what I like most about writing in my books, is like interacting with the people that read them and like love my characters as much as I do. So like having that like all the time seems like it would be a really neat experience.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm a big fan of like co-writing things. I currently have a sort of spin-off project which is co-writing with some friends, and some of it is okay, maybe we could turn this into an actual book, but most of it started around as just kind of messing around and having fun. And it's so much easier because you're kind of only responsible for like a couple of 100 words at a time, or even like a line or two at a time, and then someone will come back in and throw something else in for you to bounce off. So like it's very easy to quickly get thousands and thousands of words. And I think that's part of how I came to write a novel was I kind of looked up the word count of it and did the maths and was like, okay, 90,000 words. Let's like say that's the what you should be aiming for. If I wrote 1,000 words a day for 3 months, I would have a novel. And I was like, I already do that easily. And again, it's not quite that straightforward because for the novel, you're on your own and you've got to know what the next 1,000 words should be every day. But I stuck to it. I wrote 1,000 words a day. I thought I had a plan. I tried to follow it, realized I didn't. But I counted my words, even if I'd kind of gone this way and then gone, oh, that's not going to work. I still counted the words, even though I knew I wouldn't be using them. So at the end, I had something my friend called a roughly book-shaped heap of words, which was my favorite description because it was like, it did not read from A to B as a book, but it was 90,000 words that were all about the same thing and the same people. So just kind of needed tidying up a lot.
Yeah, because I mean, sometimes, yeah, I'm not a big like planner. I usually have a beginning and ending and a climax and a hook and a couple of ups and downs. But then I just like, if I plan out too much, I get bored when I write. So like even having a document like that, you can come back in and say, okay, what is my climax? Do I need to add in that scene of where, we're at the high point or we're at the really low point, whichever it is, a false high or false low. And we need to add in that hook of where the main character makes that decision to go on whatever realm or quest or whatever they're doing, right? So, and we can add in like, oh, we're getting like my editor got a book one time. She was like, the first 10 chapters are boring. I'm like, there's only 20 chapters. Like, yeah. So, and go back and fix all of that.
Yeah. Yeah, I love the idea of structure and the idea of having a plan, but I am not super great at creating it. Like, nothing makes my thoughts scatter to the corners of my brain faster than being given like a little template full of boxes to fill out of like, well, which part is the inciting incident and which is the, climactic point. I'm like, I know a bunch of stuff that happens, but I kind of, I need to play around with it, start writing it, jigsaw it together. And I've even started not writing in order, just kind of doing this big brain dump of things as they come to me. And some of that might be plot points in like written out in a planning way. And some of it might just be blurring a scene straight into a document. Because I found that if I plan, by the time I actually get around to writing that scene that was super clear in my head, it will have gone. And I know there was this past version that lived in my head that was clearer and better. So it's just, this continual process of just blurring things out into an outline and into an actual writing document. And at some point sort of hoping they match up and that I can either eventually take the plan and start writing the scenes I don't have, or take the scenes that I have and fill in the gaps in my plan. And it just kind of bounces back and forth.
Fun. Well, how did you find, I think your publisher is Space Wizards, is that right?
Yes, Space Wizard Science Fantasy, who are a specifically LGBTQ science fiction and fantasy press and are fantastically lovely and a wonderful company, and people should absolutely check them out. They found me actually. So again, going back to the days of when we had Twitter as a nice thing, it was during a pitch event. So it's a pitch event that still is going on. I think they've moved to Blue Sky mostly. So Small Pit, which is specifically for small presses to interact with. So yeah, I pitched during Small Pit. Space Wizard liked my pitch, so I sent them my query package and then turned into a full request and actually turned into an offer. So
that's super exciting. Yeah, I've talked to several of their authors and it's so fun. Yeah, and they're great.
Yeah, they're great. And they do a lot of like conventions as well as sort of online selling.
Super fun. And so where will you go from here? Like, do you have is this a series, or do you have the next book planned, or?
This one isn't a series. It's a standalone, as far as I'm concerned. I did have a friend get to the end of me like, I should have known that, there'd be more to it. And I'm like, nope, that's everything that's left kind of fuzzy and ambiguous is because it's meant to be fuzzy and ambiguous. So, I'm not saying never for returning to this world in a couple of years and, seeing how they're doing. But to me, it functions as a standalone. I have another YA novel that is ready-ish for querying. Like, the goal is to send out first queries by the end of the year. And, I will also send it to, they've been very open of like, hey, if you've got more, send it and we'll see. So they'll definitely be one of the people I approach, but also see if there's any agents interested, and a million different things. The one that's closest to becoming an actual thing is one that I'm pitching as Legends and Lattes meets the IT crowd. And that is one that I'm trying to get to a sort of zero draft state by the end of the year. So having a very rough, but does go A to B version of the book.
That sounds super fun. Is that YA too?
No, I actually wrote a book with adults in it and quite enjoyed that. So I might, start branching out and doing more of a mix. And I've always got a few short stories on the go. They have been kind of on a bit more of a pause lately because novels are time consuming. But I do have a short story that's coming out in Tails and Feathers magazine next year. So I'm working on the editing process for that. And then just kind of trying to send the ones that are in a fit state out on a regular basis. Have not written or edited any new ones into the pile in a while, but
that's
we'll try.
Interesting. You have that system of just continually querying like your backlogs, not backlogs, but you're in your
the ones
wheelhouse.
That are waiting to find their homes.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That sounds super fun. So tell everyone, okay, so your book is coming out September 2nd, 2025, yep. And the name is Crying Out for Magic by P.S.C. Willis. And tell everyone where we can find you and your books.
Okay, so my website is pscwillis.com, which links to all my social media. My handle on Instagram and Blue Sky is P.S.C. Willis. I have a much neglected Facebook page with the same name, and the book is, you can find out more about where to purchase it through Space Wizard's website, and the ebook is already live for pre-order on Amazon. I guess by the time this goes out, it will be after it's published, so it should be available where you buy books. So there will be physical copies available through multiple platforms. But yeah, check Space Wizard for all the details of where it's being sold.
Fine. Yes, I already found it, and click want to read or to be read or something, whatever you click on Goodreads for that. So, and I'm following you there. So I hope you will definitely come back if you have another book to publish, and congratulations and best wishes.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Finding the Magic podcast. I'm your host, author and podcaster Tricia Copeland, and I love getting behind the scenes. If you like the podcast, make sure to subscribe and stop in each week to discover new authors and books. Thanks for listening, and until next time, keep finding the magic.